Yes, it's a good afternoon to you all and welcome to the Red Centre Racing Review. I'm your host Pat Comerford and thank you very much for joining us once again. Well, it's the weekend we've all been waiting for, the double header and final weekend of the 2019 Ladbrokes Alice Springs Carnival, our Pioneer Sprint meeting on the Saturday and the Alice Springs Cup meeting on the Monday. What a large amount of racing action we have to get through, so let's dive right into it.
Imparja presents the Alice Springs Turf Club Red Centre Racing Review.
With acceptances only coming out yesterday afternoon, this week's edition of the Red Centre Racing Review will cover the Pioneer Sprint meeting in full, along with the Cup race on Monday and the ones to watch segment for the other races in the Cup Day fixture. This Saturday's meeting sees a total of 70 acceptors across 7 races. Rail is true, your code is DR. Saturday forecast, a mild sunny day, a top of 23 degrees. We head to the 1200 metre mark for race number 1, a 0 to 58 with a full field. Yes, we open the big weekend with 12 runners taking to the track here in race number 1. And after its bold run home late in the first race on Chief Minister's Cup Day, I'm all about the 10 here, Isle of Light for the Angela Forster yard. This stable saw much success this time last year and have done very well once again to set their fleet up for this big weekend. Isle of Light showed plenty of ability late in the piece to just run out of ground. It's up to the 1200 here, so that should suit. Brendan Davis keeps the ride as well. Hopefully it's an early winner for the punters. It's on top for me. Johnny Ackerton, who on his day could seriously surprise here, is in for second. Duvet down in class amongst suitable company here, will be super competitive. And finally, Razor Time, who's second up, should improve off its first run. 10 on top here from 4 to 8 in the first. The second of the day is our benchmark for the 3-year-olds, a field of 6 to take on the 1200 metres. Maiden Grace of its last start is back to its winning ways in my opinion, and I see it as the one to beat here. It's on top here to get Lisa Whittle and Paul Denton's days off to a nice start early in the piece. Razor Beer was very gracious in defeat last start and certainly fought all the way to the line. It's a danger here in my eyes for Maiden Grace. Knight's Helmet, also returning from its Guineas run over the mile, will be up front contending early, and Go Gold Coast is my 4th pick. It's been thereabouts in the finish through most of its runs here so far. My selections in the second, 3 on top from 1, 5 and 4. The third of the afternoon is over 1100 metres, a 0 to 66 affair with a total of 8 runners. Multiple runners here are coming off not only wins but huge efforts to just be beaten on the line for second. On paper, I would have Sabai on top, but with some runners here adding value, I'm going with Heart of Eden here in the third, racing up in grade, and hopefully with a bit of a price about it as well for the punters. It's on top for me from Sabai. Brazilian off a nice win is my 3rd selection. The weight is the only question mark. The same goes for the top weight, the Hummel. It's my 4th pick, but does have to lug that 61 kilos. 8, 6, 2 and 1 in the third. We then head to our maiden plate on the fixture, 10 to face the starter, all looking at getting their first victory in front of a big crowd. Well, there's certainly a few interesting inclusions here in this maiden, some who will maintain value, and this could be your opportunity to go wide in the betting on Saturday. I'm sticking with the 3-year-old here, returning to the track for the first time since the Guineas. Put a line through that performance with interference mid-race from this runner in particular, not only causing carnage for others, but jeopardised its own chances to perform as well. I'm talking about John Peacock's Lots of Coin. It's back to a suitable distance here, and I think we may finally see this horse's true colours on Saturday. It's on top as an each-way selection from Colemans, who's been thereabouts over the last couple of months. There are also horses looking at having their first start on dirt in this race, both Lights on the Harbour and the amazing Talia, who have the ability to take this out. How they handle the surface, though, is the only worry. In the maiden, it's 5 on top each way from 7, 4 and 10. Race 5 is a 0 to 70 1200, a Pioneer Sprint prelude for all those missing out on a run, along with a few others trying their luck up in grade. I'm with the toppy here, Cunning Moves. Now, winning form is always winning form, and I hope to see this horse continuing its winning ways here for the stable. Its biggest danger, however, could be its stablemate, Cold Rock. Cold Rock's been knocking on the door for a win, and with a little freshen up, it could be a big threat to this Fox Wedge gelding. Nick Knack out of 1 goes in as my third pick, and finally, Russell Bell's sprinter Wyanka, who on face value has been a little bit disappointing so far in its dirt campaign, but don't get me wrong, if this horse fires up on Saturday and performs at its best, game over, ladies and gentlemen. 1, 5, 3 and 4, race 5. We now head into our feature for the afternoon, the $100,000 Pioneer Sprint, $66,000 to the winner, and isn't the competition red hot? Yes, some seriously talented sprinters line up to the Red Centre Dash here on Saturday, one of the few premier sprint races each year in Australia to help determine who is the best dirt sprinter in the nation. So many form lines and so many contenders, my head was going through the form and it was about to explode in doing so. In the end, it was the captain on top for me as the one to beat. First up on the course here with a nice lead-up victory in the top end back in mid-March. I cannot fault this horse's preparation. It has looked an absolute picture during track work and is ready to set the track alight with a nice quick time here, I'm sure. It's my top pick from Super Brian, who also heads into the sprint first up. With only one start between last year's sprint and this weekend for a win, this 6-year-old gelding by Super Saver could be the first piece of the puzzle into getting trainer Will Savage a Sprint Cup double this year. The SA contender Crown Fontaine is my third selection. It's never run out of the money thus far and heads up for its first start on the dirt. 54, a massive plus for the John Hickmott trained horse. Finally, El Toronado on the back of its sharp wait for age time a fortnight ago in its Alice debut. It has to be included as well. Carl Spry trains and rides the 8-year-old. In the sprint, I have the 2, the captain, on top, from 3, Super Brian, 10, Crown Fontaine, and 4, El Toronado. 2, 3, 10 and 4. The last race of the afternoon is our distance race for the day over the mile, a 0 to 62 graded affair. In the last here, I've gone with Our Tickets. Form suggests it's bursting for a win, and on paper, this is the easiest company it's faced for at least the last couple runs. It's my on-top selection from Copernicus, who should relish the bump up to the mile. Grab for Power is my third pick, who ran out of its skin last start. And Wicked Promise is next, who should lead this field up and dictate terms in regards to pace in the early stages. In the last of the day, it's 5, 2, 4 and 3. For our sprint meeting, it's time for Best Bets. For Best Bets, I'd really like to stay out of the sprint, but I'll have my on-top selection there as one of my best in the captain for Gary Clark and Brendan Davis. I'll have my other best in the last of the day. I think Our Tickets is a great chance for George Cook and jockey Raymond Viger, and hopefully there's a little bit of a price there as well. The captain in the main dance and Our Tickets in the last. Well, it's been quite a vibrant atmosphere down on Heath Road as the stables prep for the big weekend of racing ahead. Before we head into the ones to watch segment for Cup Day, let's hear my chat earlier in the week with trainer Gary Clark about his Cup, Sprint and Queen of the Desert hopes this weekend. Gary Clark, you head into the Queen of the Desert race on Cup Day with Harmonium Bells first up. Tell us about its preparation so far.
She's been going good, Pat. She won this race last year and then went on to Darwin and won the Rose Bowl, so she's the queen of the territory at the moment. She'll be defending the crown on Monday.
Fantastic. Now, obviously, Viv Oldfield's had much success thus far. Sky Muster makes it to the Pioneer Sprint as well. So we're going to be seeing those purple and red colours out on track. Tell us about Sky Muster. It got a fair few points from its win there in the Ballot Exemption Open 1100 last week on Chief Minister's Cup Day. But do you think it'll be quite competitive against the rest of this field?
Yeah, well, we discussed that before we went to that race. I discussed it with Viv. We knew we'd get a lot of points if we won that race, but he's probably going the best he's ever gone, that horse, and the only way we're going to get into the sprint was by winning that race, and which he did quite well, I thought, and he's come through it really well. A
pretty impressive feat from the stable to be able to get three runners into the sprint here for the 2019 big race here on Saturday. Tell us about the other two, quite high in the handicaps. They were definitely going to get a run. Neat Feet and the captain, they're both coming in with a trial under their belt on the course, but they actually haven't partaken in a race thus far here. So they'll be going essentially first up here in Alice Springs into the sprint. Tell us about Neat Feet and the captain thus far heading into this weekend?
Yeah, well, they both had a run before they left Darwin, and because of their high rating, I couldn't really afford to run them and win a race coming into the sprint. That's why I chose to just trial both horses. They both carry weight well, and they're both very tough old sprinters, so they'll both be hard to beat.
Multiple winning chances with Downhearted in the Cup as well. We wish you the best of luck we wish the stable the best of luck going into this weekend, and thanks for having a chat.
No worries, thanks Pat.
A big thank you to Gary Clark for the time. I also happened to catch up with another trainer with nice chances in the Cup and Sprint, but a 2-year-old also who's turning heads, and that was none other than Darwin-based Tayan Halter. We're here with top-end trainer down here in Alice Springs for the Carnival, Tayan Halter. Tayan, thank you very much for joining us. We have a great bunch of horses down here in your care at the moment. We'll start off firstly with the 2-year-old that certainly has set the track alight over its previous 2 starts. $30,000 prize money already in the pool already for this horse. It's done great things so far, this gelding by Reward for Effort. We're talking about Shift the Risk. How do you think it's going to fare going into this Trovus 2-year-old plate on Monday?
Well, he's come through holding up really nicely, which is the main thing for a 2-year-old. You know yourself, Pat, you can lose them after one gallop if they go shinny and everything. But the big fella's, he's licking his bin. He's come through the runs really nicely. So fingers crossed we can just keep him there until Monday. But he's done everything right to date.
Fantastic. He's certainly the one to beat there in the 2-year-old plate. Heading into the sprints, backslap, certainly down the lower end of the handicaps here, which obviously will raise a few question marks and not knowing whether or not this horse will get a start here on Saturday. But nevertheless, tell us about its preparations thus far and how you think it'll fare against this competition.
Backslap's been faultless. He's come down, he's handled the track really well. We gave him the 1 run over the 1100. Ideally, he's a 1300 metre horse all day. But you've got to be in it to win it, and we just feel like he'll be strong at the finish of the race if he gets a run, and we just need a bit of luck and we'll be right there in the money.
Fantastic. We've got the Cup race, Hareb's Time, certainly a horse that before it was in your care, when it was with Norm Bracken, has proven itself down here in Alice Springs over the years. It's a runner in this year's Cup, but another question mark as well is Mazzaro, St. Patrick's Day Cup winner in Darwin here this year, and also the winner of our opening 1900 metre race here at Pioneer Park. It's certainly shown that it will be able to get the distance and do be quite competitive. Tell us about Hareb's Time and Mazzaro, if it does get a run, how their preparations are going as well.
Well, Hareb's Time won here very nicely in the 1400. He's a tad disappointing in the 1600 Chief Minister's Cup last week. However, he's come through the run and we've gone over him with a fine-tooth comb. He did gallop on himself and we've just had him reshod. Poplar Foe's reshod him and tidied him up, and we can't fault him at this stage. So going forward into the Cup, I mean, he's an old season stayer and he's proven over the 2000s, so we think he'll be in it. And Mazzaro, well, he's a lovely young horse. He might be next year's horse if we don't get a run, but he's done nothing wrong and he's come through his runs really nicely, and I can't fault them. So fingers crossed, if we get runs, we'll be there.
Best of luck
there at the finish.
Best of luck for the weekend ahead, and thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Once again, a big thank you to Tayan for her time. It was great to catch up with those 2 trainers in particular to discuss multiple hopefuls throughout the weekend for their stables, especially when we now head into our next segment, Ones to Watch. Well, ladies and gentlemen, 3 hopefuls here, mates, going to the Cup. And in my eyes, probably was the most impressive of that particular trial. She'll be top special for me on Monday, and I'm very excited to see her perform. Harmonium Bells, race 4, number 2. Next, we have Shift the Risk for Tayan Halter, a star 2-year-old that, with 2 wins under its belt already, the question this Monday will be not if, but by how much. It's another very confident on-top selection for me here. The question will be how short this horse comes up in the market. If it is too short, well, at least we can enjoy the spectacle. Shift the Risk, race 3, number 1. Finally, one a little bit left of field here for the punters on the one to watch category, but its performance last start on Chief Minister's Cup Day to flash home for second. I've got to have a big watch here on George Cook's runner, Henry Ladd. What a bold display of courage this horse showed in its last start, and on that effort alone, it does need to be considered here on Cup Day as a very serious chance. Henry Ladd, race 7, number 5. Well, there's 3 to follow this coming Monday. We now head to the feature event on the card for Monday afternoon, the $110,000 Ladbrokes Alice Springs Cup. Well, what a great field it is to take to the track here for this year's Cup. Certainly some standouts, but some new faces both from the NT and interstate as well. Before we do head into selections though, one horse, trained by Phil Cole, his mare, the Wild Side, will be the only female up against the boys here in this year's Cup. And we did speak to caretaker and foreman for the stable, Shane Green, about how her preparations have been thus far. Currently here with the caretaker of the Phil Cole stable, Shane Green. Now, Shane, we've got the Wild Side coming into the Cup here. A mare coming into a field up against the boys. How do you think she's going to compete coming into the big race on Monday?
Well, Pat, she's a pretty talented mare, and her recent form suggests that she's probably in a career best situation at the moment for her. But Phil's kept her fresh, hasn't raced for a number of weeks, and the plan is to keep her as fresh as a daisy going into the Cup. She's talented, and I guess she'll want a lot of speed on. She's a get-back mare who hits the line hard in the races. She should be some hope at good odds.
Fantastic. Now, Jared Todd will be taking the ride for the Wild Side in the Cup. Obviously, someone who knows the horse quite well. He's probably a nice pickup for the stable to be aboard in the main race.
Yeah, he's a very good rider, Jared, and he has a long connection with the Phil Cole stable, and they've supported each other through a long period of time now, and there's no problem at all handing Jared the reins in the Cup on Monday.
Thanks for your time, Shane.
Pleasure.
We do wish the Cole stable, rider Jared Todd and the Wild Side the best of luck this weekend. Now to my selections. Now, I think most people know who my on-top selection is going to be here in the Cup, but we must remember how tough this task is going to be for this young gelding. Here's a piece of footage from one of its last pieces of work heading into Monday's race. Yes, it's Will Savage's 3-year-old Savatu XL who is on top for me here, and we'll find the lead. That won't be the issue. But the question is, will they take it on early up front? And will apprentice Laurel Crow be able to conserve enough energy over 2,000 metres for this horse to have enough in the tank for when the swoopers loom? And believe me, they will. The young horse provides plenty of pace throughout the race, which is going to give the back markers a prime run in transit and also plenty of opportunity late. It's on top for me, nevertheless, on sheer ability. From Flow Meter, the 9-year-old for John Hickmott. Its form lines out of the Panola Cup hold up really nice here. 4.8 off Nashville Sound for Daniel Bowman, who we saw blitz its competitors at the Bull midweek. Leader is my third pick. It loves the dirt and has proven that in Darwin in the Cup last year. But there really isn't much between the Hickmott Senior and Junior, along with their runners. The barrier draw results could switch those runners around in my selections. Yet, I'm not too sure. We'll have to find out. For fourth, I really do like the First Emergency, Mazzaro, if it gets a run. It has proven at the distance, and it will be a shame if it doesn't get a spot in the race. Finally, due to having an emergency in the selections, my fifth pick, which will become my fourth if emergencies are eliminated, is the Wild Side. A featherweight for the mare, and the winning form also to back its claims as a top hope here in the run. I really do like the fact that they've kept her super fresh for this run. So many question marks, though, surround this mare. We're very excited to see how it performs on Monday. Early numbers before the barrier draw. It's the 5 Savatu XL on top from 3 Flow Meter, 6 Leader, 13 Mazzaro, the First Emergency, and 11 the Wild Side. 5, 3, 6, 13 and 11 in the Cup. Well, that's all we have time for today. Thank you very much for joining us. We hope to see you on course both Saturday and Monday this weekend. Or if you're out of town tuning in across the red and blue channels, please gamble responsibly, and we'll catch you again in a few weeks' time after our brief post-carnival break for another edition of the Red Centre Racing Review. Goodbye.